Hi, I'm Bakhtiar Sonova and welcome to A News. Let's see the top stories shaping our world. Iran and Israel launch new attacks after Tehran rules out nuclear talks. Panama declares a state of emergency in protest-rocked province. Erdogan tells Pashinyan that Turkey is using all diplomatic means to ensure stability in the South Caucasus. Iran and Israel exchanged fresh attacks early on Saturday, a day after Tehran said it would not negotiate over its nuclear program while under threat, and Europe tried to keep peace talks alive.
Iran has said it will not resume nuclear negotiations while Israeli strikes continue, as both sides launched new attacks overnight. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi told European diplomats in Geneva that diplomacy would only be considered once what he called aggression ends. Meanwhile, during a visit to the Weizmann Institute of Science hit by an Iranian missile, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel would continue its military campaign as long as it takes. The Israeli military reported a wave of new attacks on missile launch and storage sites in Iran overnight. Iran, in turn, fired 5 ballistic missiles towards central Israel. Air raid sirens sounded across Tel Aviv and other areas. One building in Tel Aviv caught fire, which authorities say was caused by falling debris from an intercepted missile. Iranian state media reported that a 16-year-old was killed and 2 others injured in an Israeli strike on the city of Qom. A facility in Isfahan, one of Iran's key nuclear sites, was also targeted again. Officials said there was no leak of hazardous materials. Iran's health ministry said 224 people have been killed in the recent escalation. The human rights activist news agency put the toll at 657 as of Friday. Israeli authorities say 25 civilians have died in Iranian strikes. These figures have not been independently verified.
Israel says it has killed 2 senior commanders of Iran's Revolutionary Guards in overnight airstrikes. The military identified one as Benham Shariari, allegedly responsible for weapons transfers to groups like Hezbollah, Hamas and the Houthis. He was reportedly killed in a strike on his vehicle in western Tehran. A second commander, Saeed Izadi, was said to have been killed in an apartment in Gom province. He led the Quds Forces Palestine Corps. The Iranian military hasn't confirmed the death. Tapan has been shut since June 15th, mirroring Iran's lockdown after Israeli strikes, leaving dozens of trucks stranded and markets dry. This 6-day freeze shows how Middle East tensions can freeze South Asian trade.
Markets were jammed on Friday as Pakistan's Tapan border crossing with Iran entered its 6th day of closure. The crossing, a vital route for daily trade in fuel, food and household goods, was shut by Pakistan on June 15th in solidarity with Iran's response to Israeli airstrikes, disrupting the flow of essential supplies. Dozens of trucks are now stranded on both sides, with transporters reporting losses of around $70 per day per truck. Local traders noted that about 90% of goods entering Tapan come from Iran, and the closure shows no imminent sign of being lifted.
We've been stuck here in Tapan for 4 to 5 days, with 6 to 7 vehicles. The border is reportedly closed and goods aren't coming through. We're waiting for it to reopen so we can load our goods. The market is closed and there's a shortage of food and drinks. We're managing with what we have, but it's tough. With 6 to 7 vehicles idle, we're losing around 20,000 rupees per vehicle daily. Diesel is also scarce and extremely expensive due to the border closure. All we can do now is wait and see when things will improve.
This shutdown is compounding an existing fuel crisis in Balochistan due to Iran's import restrictions amid escalating Israel-Iran tensions. With no timeline for reopening, traders warn that regional commerce is bleeding losses with each passing day.
The conflict between Israel and Iran is severely impacting Tapan, as 90% of our products come from Iran. With the border closed, no goods are arriving. The zero-point border area, Corridor Gate and FIA Gate are all shut. Local traders with Pakistani passports can't enter Iran, and Iranian passport holders can only reach the border and return. This is hurting local businesses and traders. For us, as major LPG gas traders, some of our vehicles are stuck en route and won't be able to reach us now.
Up to 1,200 Iranian trucks have been stuck at other Pakistan-Iran crossings like Rimdan and Quetta over recent months. The hold-up stems from a now suspended bank guarantee requirement on Iranian transporters, leading to daily economic losses of approximately $2.2 million.
Russia and Ukraine both reported strikes on each other's military and energy infrastructure on Friday as fighting on the front line continued. Russia said its forces gained control of 6 settlements over the past week and hit Ukrainian air defense systems, energy facilities and military industry sites. It also reported shooting down over 1,000 Ukrainian drones and intercepting rockets and aerial bombs. Ukraine said its forces launched attacks on Russian command posts and artillery positions, with over 170 clashes reported on the front lines in just one day. Meanwhile, both sides carried out a prisoner exchange under an agreement reached earlier this month in Istanbul. Russia said its military personnel were returned, while Ukraine confirmed the release of soldiers from multiple service branches. Both countries said the freed prisoners would receive medical care and rehabilitation. Panama's government has declared a state of emergency in Bocas del Toro after protests over pension reforms turned violent, with widespread vandalism hitting the region. Authorities are taking tough action to restore order.
Panama's government temporarily suspended certain constitutional rights in the western province of Bocas del Toro on Friday, following a wave of violent protests and attacks on businesses and government offices. The move comes after more than a month of nationwide demonstrations against a controversial pension reform law passed in March. The unrest has been particularly intense in Bocas del Toro, where workers from a local Chiquita banana plantation have played a central role. On Thursday, tensions escalated sharply, prompting the government to declare the situation had become dangerously unstable.
Before the disruption to order and acts of systematic violence, the state will use its constitutional mandate to guarantee peace, order and respect for the majority of Panamanians' fundamental rights. For this reason, the national government has decided to declare a state of emergency and suspend constitutional guarantees throughout the territory of the Bocas del Toro province for 5 days to restore peace and order. This measure is taken to prevent radical and criminal groups from meeting to organize acts of vandalism and violence that could put at risk property, people, and disturb peace and order.
Chiquita condemned the strike action by plantation workers as an unjustified abandonment of work and terminated thousands of employees. Many of those workers later withdrew from the protests after negotiating the partial reinstatement of benefits lost under the pension reform. Despite the withdrawal of Chiquita workers, road blockades in the province remain in place. The government has not confirmed who is currently maintaining the blockades, as labor unions continue to lead protests in other regions of the country.
The global aviation industry is being reshaped by mounting geopolitical tensions and conflicts that have upended traditional east-west air routes. From the ongoing war in Ukraine to growing instability in the Middle East, airlines are now facing longer, costlier and less sustainable journeys. In this challenging environment, Azerbaijan has rapidly gained prominence as a reliable, neutral and strategic aviation hub linking Asia and Europe. Now we take a closer look at how Azerbaijan is positioning itself at the heart of a new era in global air connectivity. I'm pleased to be joined by Ussal Guliyev, policy advisor at the Air Center in Baku, who will help us unpack these developments and what they mean for the future of international aviation. Mr. Guliyev, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me. And recent geopolitical crisis, most notably Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine and the escalating military tensions between Israel and Iran have significantly disrupted traditional east-west air corridors.
Yes.
And airspace closures over Russia, Iran, Iraq, and Israel have compelled airlines to take longer, less efficient routes, and resulting in higher fuel costs, operational delays, and increased carbon emissions. And approximately over 1,000 flights per day were affected due to Ukraine-related restrictions alone. And as it mentioned, Azerbaijan is uniquely positioned to address these disruptions due to its location, robust infrastructure, and a clearly defined long-term vision. Situated at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, Azerbaijan has invested heavily in multimodal connectivity, aiming to become a permanent hub for air, rail, road, and sea transport. And this long-term strategic outlook, rather than a temporary reaction to crisis, makes Azerbaijan a sustainable and forward-looking solution in an increasingly fragmented aviation landscape.
Mr. Guliyev, Heydar Aliyev International Airport has played a crucial role during the recent Middle East airspace restrictions. Could you elaborate on how Azerbaijan managed these sudden influx of diverted flights so effectively?
Yeah, as it mentioned, during the recent Middle East airspace closures, Heydar Aliyev International Airport quickly emerged as a critical rerouting point for international flights. The airport's ability to handle this sudden influx is a direct result of Azerbaijan's forward planning and consistent infrastructure investment. And the airport has modern facilities, a highly capable air traffic control system, and the capacity to support large-scale rerouting operations. And it had already established itself as a regional hub, serving over 7 million passengers only in 2024, and its swift response to crisis situations, backed by strong logistics and operational protocols, reflects Azerbaijan's long-term vision of becoming an optimal and reliable air transit center that can adapt to global disruptions with efficiency.
Mr. Guliyev, looking ahead, what are the key priorities or projects that will further enhance Azerbaijan's role as a critical aviation hub between Asia and Europe?
Azerbaijan's future-oriented strategy includes several high-impact initiatives to enhance its position as a major east-west aviation hub, such as the Alat Cargo Airport located in Alat, which is integrated into Alat Free Economic Zone, is going to be one of the multimodal logistics center connecting both sea, rail, and air routes. Additionally, Azerbaijan Airlines is upgrading its fleet with fuel-efficient airplanes such as Airbus A320 and Boeing Dreamliners in order to improve sustainability and reduce emissions. Moreover, Azerbaijan is actively investing in sustainable aviation fuel and international carbon accountability programs, aligning its growth with global environmental standards. And these priorities are part of the coherent long-term vision that reflects Azerbaijan's ambition to lead the transformation of Eurasian aviation and global logistics.
Ursal Guliyev, thank you very much for joining us today and sharing these valuable insights. We truly appreciate your time and expertise. Thank you very much.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Foreign ministers from across the Muslim world have gathered in Istanbul for the 51st session of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, with the war between Israel and Iran topping the agenda.
The 51st session of the Council of Foreign Ministers of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation takes place in Istanbul on Saturday, with foreign ministers from over 40 member states in attendance. Chaired by Turkey, the summit is addressing regional instability with a particular focus on the conflict between Israel and Iran and the ongoing war in Gaza. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan told delegates that Israeli strikes on Iran were intended to disrupt upcoming nuclear talks with the United States.
With all these attacks, Netanyahu's government has once again proven that it is the biggest obstacle before regional peace.
He urged calm and called on influential powers to help prevent further escalation. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said Tehran would not resume negotiations while Israeli attacks continued, accusing the United States of supporting Israeli military actions.
We have come, unfortunately, to the conclusion that the United States has been in this aggression from the beginning. You know, they deny, they keep saying that they are not involving, but we have many indications that they have been involved from day one. And now, you know, the tweets, interviews by the U.S. president is quite clear that he's talking about the U.S. leadership on this question.
Araghchi also warned that further US involvement would be dangerous. According to a source in the Turkish Foreign Ministry, a special closed-door session of the OIC Council of Foreign Ministers is expected to be held later today at Iran's request. The source said representatives from all OIC member states are anticipated to attend.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan met with Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi on Saturday to discuss the conflict between Iran and Israel. Erdogan told Araghchi that Turkey made various contacts to end the fighting and to return to diplomacy. He added that steps for diplomacy needed to be taken by relaunching talks between the United States and Iran on a technical level or at a meeting between leaders. The meeting between the two delegations was held on the sidelines of the OIC meeting in Istanbul. Turkish Aerospace Industries has revealed new details about the flight test timeline of its next-generation fighter jet, the Gach. The aircraft, designed to strengthen the Turkish Air Force and attract international buyers, is set to advance through technical testing stages over the next 2 years. Turkish Aerospace Industries CEO Mehmet Demiroğlu outlined the Gach fighter's flight test schedule in an interview with Flight Global. The lead prototype is expected to begin flight tests in the first quarter of 2026, following completion of the prototype early that year. A second prototype is planned to fly by mid-2026, and a third in early 2027. In total, 6 aircraft will support a demanding testing campaign involving thousands of flight hours. Demiroğlu emphasized that deliveries to the Turkish Air Force will begin in the Block 10 configuration, though the timeline is challenging and partly dependent on supply chain conditions. Supply issues have already delayed the first prototype's initial flight beyond 2025, but TAI is committed to staying on schedule. Indonesia has become the second customer for the Gach, with an order for up to 48 jets. Demiroğlu confirmed that the decision is final, with only some technical requirements left to conclude. TAI's earlier demonstrator flight in February 2024, originally intended for ground tests, helped build confidence among buyers. Looking ahead, Demiroğlu expressed optimism about securing more international orders. He hinted at a deal comparable to Indonesia's, possibly from a nearby country, expected either later this year or early next year. Saudi Arabia is among those showing interest, with talks continuing about the Gach, as well as the Anka-3 unmanned air vehicle. In a key diplomatic development, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan met with Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan in Istanbul on Friday. The meeting comes amid heightened regional tensions following Israel's attacks on Iran. Turkey says it's stepping up diplomatic efforts to secure stability not just in the South Caucasus, but across the wider region. During talks in Istanbul, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan told Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan on Friday that Turkey is using all diplomatic means to establish stability not only in the Caucasus, but across the entire region. According to Turkey's Communications Directorate, Erdogan emphasized that Ankara is engaged in ongoing diplomacy with other regional leaders to help reduce risks linked to the escalating violence set off by Israel's recent offensive against Iran. Erdogan underlined the significance of the consensus achieved so far in peace negotiations between Azerbaijan and Armenia, particularly in the current volatile regional context. The two leaders discussed the latest regional developments, the state of direct contacts between Ankara and Yerevan, and the broader peace and dialogue initiatives aimed at the South Caucasus. Erdogan indicated that Turkey would maintain comprehensive support for regional development efforts, advocating what he described as a win-win approach for all parties involved. The meeting also addressed potential steps to further the normalization process between Turkey and Armenia, a process that has gained renewed momentum over the past year. This meeting follows Prime Minister Pashinyan's visit to Turkey in 2023, when he attended Erdogan's presidential inauguration. The two leaders also met last month on the sidelines of the European Political Community Summit in Albania and held a phone conversation during the recent Eid al-Adha holiday. Russia's Deputy Prime Minister Alexei Overchuk warned that Armenia's deepening ties with the EU could cost up to $6 billion in lost trade with Russia by the end of 2025. He stressed that Armenia cannot be in both the EU and the Eurasian Economic Union, as that would effectively sever its tariff-free access to Russia's market. Overchuk also called for regulatory reform and expanded border capacity to stabilize and revive Russia-Armenia trade channels. Trade between Uzbekistan and Azerbaijan has surged by around 40% since the beginning of the year, officials announced during the 14th meeting of Joint Intergovernmental Commission in Baku, co-chaired by Uzbekistan's Minister of Trade, Laziz Kudratov, and Azerbaijan's Minister of Economy, Mikhail Japarov. Trade tripled over the past 5 years, reaching about $232 million by end of 2023, with an additional 20% rise in early 2024. Key sectors driving this momentum include manufacturing, agriculture, transport, energy, and textiles. Both sides aim to hit a $1 billion trade target within 2 years, backed by joint ventures and logistics enhancements. Uzbekistan has successfully completed its inaugural pilot train run from its territory through Kyrgyzstan, China, and Mongolia. The national carrier navigated challenging Altai mountain terrain, rising to around 1,500 meters above sea level and covering approximately 4,500 kilometers in just 8 days. This new corridor aims to open up fresh markets for domestic producers and establish alternative logistics links to East and Central Asia. The project reflects broader government efforts to diversify freight routes, enhance connectivity, and forge deeper trade ties across the region. The visit of representatives from the diplomatic corps accredited in Azerbaijan to Eastern Zangezur and Karabakh continues. Today, the delegation has visited Shusha and Agdam to observe the reconstruction process. Our own Lou Brown has more from Agdam.
We're coming to you now from Agdam, once home to over 30,000 people, today standing as a symbol of destruction and determination. This is the final stop on a multi-day tour through Karabakh by foreign diplomats, and if it anywhere captures the full weight of the region's past and future, it's here. Often referred to as the Hiroshima of the Caucasus, Agdam was left in ruins after years of conflict, but a city is now being rebuilt, one brick at a time. This area has one of the highest concentration of landmines in all of Karabakh. Beyond a certain distance, the signs don't just say no entry, they mean it. Massive parts of Agdam are still inaccessible, with safety teams warning of their danger. One EU representative told me, off camera, that this was one of the biggest challenges he's seen on the entire tour. But the ambition is still bold. The diplomats' first stop was the Imaret complex, once a royal estate, now partially restored, a place that shows the full weight of new ideas and new ambition. From the past to the future, the next stop was Agdam Industrial Park, where the old charm and more industrial backbone was on show. At Rail Trans Services, they're producing railway parts and processing systems, absolutely vital, hoping to reconnect this region to the rest of Azerbaijan. And now we are getting ready to leave, getting ready to go home as the diplomats have wrapped up their store. This behind me is the auto station complex, where trains are now slowly taking shape. The blueprint for new travel and new industry is here. Agdam might not dazzle yet, but this stop was never about the show. It's about the start. A place not polished, but certainly promising.
And now we take you to the town of Gach, a vibrant mountain region in northwestern Azerbaijan, where ancient history, rich culture, and stunning nature come together. Here is Ali Aziz with a report.
We are here in Gach, a vibrant, mountainous town in the northwestern region of Azerbaijan, where history, culture, and nature come together in one of the country's most captivating regional destinations. Let's explore this town together and uncover the stories hidden in its hills, villages, and ancient landmarks. The day began in the historic village of Ilisu, once a key stop along the Silk Road. Stone-paved paths led to the Ulu Mosque, one of the oldest surviving religious structures in the region, and the iconic Ulu Bridge, an 18th century architectural masterpiece. We then visited İçeri Bazar, the heart of Gach's old trading quarter, with its narrow stone streets and traditional architecture. The journey continued toward the village of Lakit, famous for its untouched natural beauty and spiritual landmarks. One of the highlights was an off-road adventure to Mamurlu Waterfall, a moss-covered cascade hidden in the forest. Just beyond, the Yedi Kilise, or Seven Churches, monastery complex offers a glimpse into Azerbaijan's early Christian heritage, dating back to the 5th century, and also it was historically part of the Caucasian Albania. We also had the chance to experience local village life at the Lakit Bee House, where we tasted organic honey, explored the surrounding farmland, all while surrounded by the breathtaking Caucasus Mountains. This immersive journey is part of a media tour supported by the Azerbaijan Tourism Board, which continues its dedicated efforts to showcase the country's regional gems. Through initiatives like these and their national campaign #ExperienceAzerbaijan, they aim to promote sustainable tourism, cultural discovery, and the hidden beauty of places like Gach.
Well, that's all we have for now from Baku. Stay tuned to A News for more updates.